Okay, we're back with Chantelle and we're going to speak a bit about her new business and stuff.
Stuff and things.
So we worked together, for about 5 years?
Yeah, almost 6.
And then we went our separate ways, and another long story short, I started my own business, and a couple of months later you did the same thing. So do you want to tell us what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I've always had a massive passion for the outdoors, conservation, photography, but always kept an office job because, guaranteed paycheck. And after leaving the business that we worked at together, I joined another one and realized very, very quickly that I no longer belong in the corporate world. I'm a very free spirit. I don't really conform to rules very well. Although I do get a job done, I just couldn't be under somebody's thumb.
I think the corporate world has changed as well, because
Yeah.
it's definitely, and we've both worked in the travel industry, and I've worked in the travel industry for the last 15 years, and I assume you were the same, because you started on the ships as well. I feel like it used to be fun, and it just became not fun.
Yeah, it's become very greedy, and all businesses need to make money. You've got salaries to pay, and you've got shareholders to keep happy. But we're selling dreams. And it just got lost along the way. It all became very political. It's kind of a contest between the big boys of each big brand of who's doing better. And I just started thinking to myself, there has to be more to life than doing this. I look at the things that I'm passionate about, and if I had to just be able to give everything up and go and live in the bush, I'd be very happy. I don't need the material thing. And I started to wonder if it's worth putting yourself through that every single day for the material thing.
Yeah.
You don't actually want them. Yeah, I started to do some research, started to network with a few new people, started to get some opinions on things like my photographs and if there's a way forward for them, and decided this is it.
You say, you're working to buy stuff that you don't need. So what do you want to work for? Living in a city, you need to pay water and lights, and you've got a bond, and you've got overheads, and you have to have a car living in Joburg. So there's a minimum threshold that you have to earn in order to live.
There are still bills to pay.
But kind of, what are you working for?
It's almost, without putting a negative connotation on it, it's almost like a drug addict or an alcoholic looking for their next fix. For me, I want to be out there. I want to be diving. I want to be going out to Kruger and just spend a week there taking photos, looking at the animals, being outdoors. So aside from working to pay bills, I also work so that I can go and do those things, because that's where I find true joy in.
You obviously spend a lot of time in the bush and that
yes.
Sort of thing. So I know that we've been camping with you a couple of times. That one time. But you're kind of gone almost every second week. Your folks own a place up in Marlow as well that you go to stay at. Do you do a lot of other travelling?
We take regular diving trips. Last year, what are we now? 2019. So last year we went twice. This year we've been 3 times already.
Oh wow.
So the bug has bitten hard. So that's why I say it's almost like, how can I get my next fix?
Yeah.
And I just love it. Just being outdoors, whether it's under the water or out in the wild. To me, that's what life is about.
Obviously, you've started your own business, and being with your history in travel, you've started doing sustainable travel packages focused on what you are passionate about.
Yeah. So basically, Barking Wild is a lifestyle and travel business. The travel side of it is really the major part, because that is going to be where the income comes in. And I basically want to send people on the kinds of holidays that, for fear of sounding cliche, that change your life. We're speaking to like-minded individuals, we're speaking to outdoorsy people. Go out there and do a photographic safari. It's all very tailor-made. I'm using general suppliers that I've handpicked. These guys are sustainable. They're working towards conservation, or they're helping out the community in some way or another, whether it be upliftment or jobs or education. I'm not selling just everything. If you've read my blogs, you'll see a lot of the stuff is around conservation and sustainable travel, and certain things that aren't sustainable and why they're not, and why we shouldn't support those.
So what is sustainable travel? Because looking at travel and the way it's kind of broken down into categories, you get like eco travel, and you get like the people that only want to go to lodges that use like solar power and recycled water and that kind of thing. So what is sustainable travel? Because that's obviously eco travel, I'd imagine, falls into sustainable travel.
Yes.
But what is the kind of general overall sustainability?
So sustainable travel is basically businesses and lodges and things like that are valid. You can, for example, look at places like Reunion, where they're actually working very hard to conserve electricity. They're doing their own stuff in the gardens, growing their own veg and their herbs. There's a beautiful place in the Drakensberg that I'm working with, where all their eggs come from their chickens, all their veggies come from their garden.
Okay.
These guys have locals running the lodge for them. So they're sustainable in terms of they're creating jobs. They are eco-friendly. They've got a low carbon footprint. Unsustainable is things where it's just there for the money. If you look at things like lodges where you can pet lions, walking with lions, cheetah runs, things like that, that is not sustainable. And the reason it's not sustainable is because you're exploiting wildlife for profit. And that's a big red flag. So we're working with sustainable partners, and what that means is they are giving back. They are ensuring that the conservation is in place. They're ensuring that there's no profit for petting. All of that sort of stuff is sustainable.
Your last blog post that you posted this last week was all about the animal interactions and that kind of thing. And like you said in your blog post that you were part of that. You petted a lion when you were a kid. And very ashamedly, I petted a lion as an adult.
I think we've all done it at some point because we haven't understood what's behind it. And that's why I made the point in that blog that you see somebody in a ranger's uniform and you trust them because you assume that they're doing the right thing. And they kind of target your bleeding heart because they tell you about how these creatures need help and they highlight the peril to you. So it's like, take my money. And you're not actually understanding that they're just using that to exploit you. If there's more education, people understand why we shouldn't do these things. And we're not saying, I actually got into a heated argument, not an argument, but a debate on Instagram the other day with somebody who was involved in a shark cage dive. Well, it actually wasn't a cage dive, it was a baited dive. So you get 3 different kinds of shark dives. You get your natural interaction where you're on a dive and a shark comes along. I've had that once. And I've logged almost 60 dives, which isn't that much, but it's rare. You don't generally see them. Then you get the dives where there's no cage involved, but they're baiting the water. So that means that they're taking dead fish and things like that in a crate with them to attract the shark. And the issue that I have with that is that it's creating behavior in the sharks that's not natural. So there's already a perception in the world that sharks are aggressive, they eat people. It's not true. They are formidable hunters. They can be aggressive when they need to be aggressive, just like any animal or person. But that behavior that you're seeing, that riled up intensity, that is not normal. So that's why I'm against baited dives with sharks. Yes, you're attracting them, but you're making them worked up and it's not a true experience because they actually are pretty chill. And then you get your cage dives, and you've got cage dives that are done the correct way and you've got cage dives that are done the incorrect. And that's why in that blog as well I highlighted White Shark Project. I'll do some writing on them in the upcoming weeks, but they do it in a sustainable manner. Don't bait the water. They are tagging sharks. Okay. So when a shark comes to the cage, they're tagging it so that they can actually follow the data, find out where the shark goes, know what it's up to. And it's important. It's all part of conservation, just like you would tag a wild dog or a cheetah. And they have the whole plastic drive as well. So they recycle. You take your plastics in and you swap them for like pens and pencils and other stationery for school. So they're involved. But then you get the guys who are chumming the water, throwing you in a cage. Sharks are getting injured because they're hitting against the cage. They're not helping them in any way. They're not tagging. They're not working towards conservation. Unsustainable. We were in a debate about the baits. I said to this guy, well, I didn't say to him, I just commented on the post and said, guys, just be aware, this isn't normal shark behavior. This is a baited dive. Baited dives create this kind of reaction in them, blah, blah, blah. And he came back and he was like, well, it's no different than going to the game reserve and seeing animals. So to an extent, that is a valid point because you get people who don't respect the animals in game reserves. They will get too close to the lions. They'll agitate the animals by being in their space. But at the same time, if you're respectful and you're doing it the right way, you're not interfering with that animal, so it's not the same thing. So there's, unfortunately, it all comes down to the way that we behave. And that is what determines whether or not it's a sustainable practice.
In terms of sustainability, are the prices not more expensive to stay at a sustainable place?
No, not at all. You do get a couple of places who will, sort of post themselves as the eco-friendly lodge that has their own water and their solar panels and they do tend to charge a levy for that. That's not true sustainability. That's again profit for a label.
Yeah.
I'm eco-friendly. It's you're paying more because it's organic. It's that kind of thing. I have found that the lodges that I've chosen are not more expensive because they're sustainable. If anything, they're actually more affordable. The guys that are doing their own produce, for example, that's a big cost that they don't have to fulfill through a third party. So they can actually keep their costs low. And generally people that go through this much effort to ensure sustainability want to share that with other people. So they're happy to keep their costs down in order to get guests in so that other people can experience that. Because for them, it's not about money.
So talking about sustainability as well, if we just kind of flip back to animal interactions, how would somebody who is not in this world know whether something is sustainable. Obviously, animal interactions are a big no-no, and that's, like you say, a red
Yeah.
flag. But there are a lot of places that tag themselves as like a cheetah rehabilitation, and they do cheetah runs and that kind of thing. And the reason they give is that cheetahs were born to run, and they need to be rehabilitated and all that kind of thing. And I'm not detracting at all from the places that do this in a sustainable way and are focused on the conservation. But how do people tell the difference between those places and places that are doing it purely for profit?
Yeah, and this is where it gets tricky because, you see one thing like the petting of lion cubs and you go, okay, I'm not going to support anybody who has big cats in captivity. That's also a mistake. Because there are centres that are really working towards conservation. My biggest thing is do your research. Look at their website and have a look and see, are they involved with people like the Endangered Wildlife Trust or the World Wildlife Foundation? There's a lot of conservation organisations that will be involved with these kinds of places if they are legitimate. The other thing is to ask questions. Generally when people have something to hide, they know that they have something to hide, so they won't be upfront. It's very easy to pick up a phone and say, this is a cheetah rehabilitation centre. Okay, what sort of activities do you offer? Yeah, we do walks with cheetahs. Ask why. Why do you promote this activity? If it's dodgy, they tend to be quite shady about it. But again, the biggest thing is to see if they're involved with a big and proper organisation. So to give you an idea, there's 2 monkey sanctuaries. There's more than one monkey sanctuary, but I'm going to use 2 as an example. One of them is doing a lot of good work in terms of rescuing pets from people who can no longer look after a monkey because a monkey is not a pet, and educating people in terms of why you shouldn't have monkeys as pets and giving these monkeys a place to stay. You go there, you cannot feed them, you cannot touch them. It's a huge enclosure where all the monkeys are living, they're being looked after, they've got veterinary care. You can walk through, but no touching, no petting, no fiddling with the monkeys. And then there's another sanctuary where you can feed the monkeys, you can pet the monkeys, you can take photos with the monkeys. Those are your red flags. So cheetah runs is actually a really, really good example because, yes, they do need to run. You can't have a cheetah living in an enclosure and it doesn't run. The challenge is any cheetah living in an enclosure can't hunt, no matter how big that enclosure is. And I'm not talking enclosures like Kruger National Park or Pilanesberg. That's not what I mean. A cheetah needs space, it needs to run, it needs to hunt. As much as it pains me to say so, those animals will be better off put down than living in that scenario. So cheetahs are difficult because obviously the bloodlines are quite scarce. There's massive issues with cheetahs and breeding. The females mostly produce males, and that's why the species is actually dying out. It's actually got very little to do with human interaction. It's just the genetics thing. So with cheetahs specifically, there's been a lot of fiddling. So with them, I would be a little bit more lenient than looking at something where there's lions bred for...
The lions, all kind of the interactive ones, or the interactive lions. The lions that are in these petting lion park type deals, they often end up in hand hunting.
Yes, they do. Not even often, they do. So basically what happens is there'll be a pride on the premises, or 2 or 3. Another one is white lions. They love showing off white lions. I don't know if you're aware, but white lions are actually, it's a genetic defect.
Well, it's an albino.
Actually something, no, it's not even albino. It's got something to do with genetics. Actually, that animal is impaired. So those lions shouldn't continue, but they breed them intentionally because people want to see white lions because it's a special thing. That's why you don't see a lot of white lions in the wild. It's not like a desert lion or because you get different kinds of lions.
Yes.
It's not like that. It's actually an impaired animal, and they're continuously breeding those. So what they do is as soon as the baby is born, they'll give it a couple of weeks, they'll take it away from mom, and they'll hand rear. So that works for them in 2 ways. The baby is getting used to people, and mom goes back into estrus because now her baby is gone, so she'll breed again. So it becomes a really good puppy mill kind of scenario where they just continuously breed, and these little ones are continuously brought in. So you'll note when you're looking at petting, it's always little ones. Very seldom more than 6 months old. When they get to that age, they start getting groomed for walking with lions. And they'll continue to do that. Their noses are always pink. As soon as that nose turns black, it's reached sexual maturity and you can no longer walk with that animal. He's a danger. That's when he goes to the canned lion park.
Okay. So canned hunting is essentially these lions that are not natural lions. They've basically been reared to not be afraid of humans.
Yeah.
They are comfortable with human presence. And so the hunt itself is not like a normal hunt, because I'd imagine there's a difference between the type of person that does canned hunting and the difference. Not that personally I don't support trophy hunting either. For me, hunting is something that you would do to feed your family because you live out in the sticks and you need to shoot bookie in order to feed yourself for the next month. But to get back to the lions, these lions will basically not behave like lions. So there's not actually much to a canned hunt. There's no skill involved because the lion is just basically sitting there and you can nail it.
Yeah, so when they reach sexual maturity, they obviously change and they do become a little bit more dubious of people. So one of the common practices is that they actually drug them. So Mr. Whoever is coming over from the States, he wants his big male lion and he wants a mane of this big and this color. These lions have been living there for years.
Yeah.
So they've got nice and big and beautiful and very little scarring on the faces because they're kept separate. They're not fighting with each other for food or territory. And basically they'll be drugged so that they can't run, they can't get away. Mr. will usually be on the back of a bakkie or some sort of safari vehicle. He'll shoot from there, easy peasy, and it's done. Going back to your point on hunting, I would never be able to shoot an animal myself, never in a million years, but there is sustainable hunting, creates a lot of jobs in this country, but trophy hunting, that's a little bit touchy. When you're drugging an animal, you're not giving it a chance. It's in an enclosure that's probably not even a square kilometer. It's a fish in a barrel.
Yeah.
You know, and he didn't stand a chance at all, and that's wrong.
Okay, so obviously the stuff that you're putting together for your packages, you're avoiding and you've done your research, and so people looking through you will not be supporting any kind of trade that supports these unsustainable practices.
No, absolutely. Fortunately for me, because I have been involved with conservation for many years, I am aware of what is legitimate and what is not. You obviously learn a lot every day, and I do my research heavily on my partners. I don't just sell anything. The stuff that I'm selling for a reason, and there is no such interactions involved at all.
Okay, fantastic.
I've actually signed the Blood Lions Pledge as well, and that means that as a tourism provider, I will not sell any interactions, whether it be petting, walking, any of that sort of stuff.
Okay, now what's the difference between a walking safari and walking with lions, for example? Because you get these guys that will take you, like rangers will take you out on a bushwalk. So there's obviously a difference between those two things.
Absolutely. So your walking with lions is again happening in an enclosed space. It's happening with lions that were hand reared, which are supposedly tame. And you do, I don't know how long it takes or whatever, but I've seen the videos and you just kind of walk along with them and you've got a ranger with you and it's happy days. If you're doing a bushwalk or a walking safari, that's usually done inside a massive reserve. So places like Mabula, places like Kruger, Pilansberg, they have walking safaris. And the way that works is you basically get taken with a ranger. You get briefed before on behavior, things you should do, things you shouldn't do. If you do come across a big animal, this is how you need to react because these are wild animals. They haven't been hand reared. They're not used to people at all and they are unpredictable. So the ranger is usually armed as well, just in case. And you take a walk through the bush and he'll show you poop that you come across. He'll show you animals that you come across. I've only ever done one once and we didn't really see very much, to be honest. So I'm not sure that they're worth the cost, but it is still really cool. You know, whenever you go to a legit game reserve and you're in a vehicle, you always wonder, like, you know, if I had to walk over there, what would I see? You know, and it's kind of scary and exciting at the same time to be exposed like that. And it is still pretty dangerous because anything could happen. Elephants are usually your biggest threat. But again, these rangers have spent so much time out there. They know the animal behavior. They can pick up when things aren't quite right. And, you know, they're there to look after you as long as you follow their instructions.
Yeah, I thought it was just important, seeing as we were talking about the sustainable stuff, just to clarify that not all walking safaris are bad.
Again, it just comes down to reading up. You know, at my previous business, we were also very much into sustainability, and the Tread Right Foundation was part of our anchors, which was great. But I saw a lot of fear in my colleagues in terms of what you can offer and what you can't offer. And a lot of them just pulled back completely and said, okay, well, if it involves an animal, I'm not offering. And that's not what we're saying. We're just saying when it does involve an animal, make sure it's ethical.
So we've spoken about diving, the safari side, what to look out for, what type of packages you offer. The other thing that you do is photographic
Yes.
safaris. You yourself are a photographer, and we're currently in your house, and all the pictures on the walls are these beautiful pictures that you've taken out in the bush. So you're obviously a photographer yourself, and do you give people that want to do photography safari hints and tips, or are you catering more to people who are photographers already and they want something super wow?
Actually, bits of both.
Okay.
So one of the categories in my blog is photography.
Yeah.
So from time to time, I do cover things on top tips and
Yeah.
ways to get the most out of your equipment and yourself. With regards to the photographic safaris, I have everything from pangolin safaris, very, very high-end Southern Africa safaris. Definitely aimed more at your guy who knows what he's doing. They don't come cheap, so I don't see amateurs wanting to actually take part in that unless they're still there for the wildlife. Very, very light. But that's amazing because you actually can have like Chobe River cruises where you're on the boat taking photos of the animals on the side of it. So it's very, very special. But I'm also doing things for your amateurs or your guys that are just looking for a more tailor-made experience. Being a photographer myself, I am comfortable to take guests out. So we could do pre-national park safaris. I could arrange accommodation for clients. We can do little briefings, things like that. So that's just a little bit of a different take on it because that would be in a self-drive environment. So sort of traveling more in a convoy and still communicating over two-way radios. But instead of being in a safari vehicle, you've actually got your own space.
Okay, so are you actually traveling with people
Yes.
in terms of your clientele? So obviously you're not necessarily a tour guide yourself, but is that like an option that you would offer?
Yeah, no, definitely. We're doing it on the photographic safaris and we're doing it on the diving. So because we have a very, very good relationship with coral divers in Sudwana Bay, they are great with groups. And if you go with a group of people, you can actually have exclusive boats for yourself.
Oh, fantastic.
So that means that you and your family or you and your friends, for example, are diving just you guys, not with strange people. The diving community is great. Generally, we're a lovely bunch of people, but there are some real morons out there. If you get lumped with one of them as your buddy, it can ruin your life. So that's a really nice option. And because we dive ourselves, we would obviously be able to join in on that, help people find things. So, I don't like the term tour guide. It's more of a concierge kind of service.
Okay.
But for clients who are looking for that sort of thing, we can definitely tailor make.
Fantastic. And then you do it for local South Africans as well as anyone coming into the country.
You know what? For me, it's not about who I'm selling to or where they're going. It's about the experience that they're looking for. So I'm not limiting myself. I mean, if you go onto my website, you'll see there's a couple of packages listed there, but that's not where it ends. To me, this is about an experience that I want my clients to share in. So if they come to me and say, look, I want to see the most rare zebra in the world, I'll figure out where they can go. Can't guarantee you'll see it, but it's all about these experiences more than where they go or where they're from.
All right, so on your website, you've got an online store as well. You've got, I don't know what you've got on there, but it's it's kind of like your kind of artisan stuff.
Local is lacquer. That's basically the thing. Proudly South African. I've got a couple of entrance tickets and activities on there that I've gotten through, again, sustainable partners. So things like Marapeng and Stadfontein Caves, City Red buses, Two Oceans Aquarium. There's some activities like kayaking and Lilo in Storms River. Really, really fun stuff.
Okay.
That doesn't necessarily need a full consultation with me to sell. Easy enough. You can go on, you want to go to Stadfontein, you can buy your ticket, done and dusted.
Okay.
But I'm also looking at goods. So I work very closely with a couple of local eco-friendly products. One of them is Ultra B. It's an amazing product. Really, really good skincare, and they've got different ranges. So they've got things from sunscreens to mosquito repellent to tissue oils, you name it.
Okay.
I actually use it myself. Really, really good. So I'm working with them.
Okay. It just, excuse my ignorance, but Ultra B, obviously it's all bee-related products. So like the wax and the honey.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. They use the wax and extracts and all sorts. Really, really cool. And I'm looking for a couple of more products. So homemade stuff. If you are a small business person and you make blankets or, I don't know, print shirts, anything like that.
Okay.
That's local. That's really where the small business part of it comes in.
Okay. Does it have to be a sustainable product?
Yes and no. So if you are making shoes, for example, and you've got 12 little children from Asia making them in your garage, No, I'm not interested. But, if you are doing something, unfortunately, things like craft beers, gins, that sort of thing, I can't because I don't have a license. But I mean, you could be making candles or soaps, or I actually saw a thing yesterday. This lady makes, those mobiles for cots.
Yes, yeah.
That sort of thing. She's a small business owner. It's not necessarily eco-friendly, that she's not making it from like old plastic, for example. But she's still a small business owner. She's proudly South African. She's not giving her profits to the drug trade. Yeah, that's why I say yes and no.
So we'll obviously leave your details right at the end. We'll tell everyone how to get in contact with you and that kind of thing. Your blog, you've got a blog on your website that covers all the topics from safaris to how you got involved in conservation to how to take photographs and all that kind of thing. People can subscribe through your websites.
Yes, so it's really easy to subscribe. At the bottom of all my pages is a subscription panel.
Okay.
You just leave your name and your email address, and you've subscribed. You'll receive the blogs, you'll receive offers, and any other news that we have.
Okay, fantastic. So how would people get in contact with you if they need to? You're obviously on social media. You've got a website. Do you want to give us all those details?
So on our website, it's probably the easiest way to find all our other channels. You just go to www.barkingwilds.co.za. There's an email contact thing there. There's a subscription thing. My phone number, everything is on that website, and all the links to our social media pages.
Okay, fantastic. Which social media are you on?
We are on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We've got a YouTube channel as well. We're on Twitter. And we're on LinkedIn. Okay.
I know you're active on all those profiles. Because
we are.
Twitter for me.
I know. I'm still wrapping my head around Twitter. I'm trying.
If people want to see the beautiful photographs you take.
Oh, yes. No, there's a gallery on the website as well.
Okay.
And I do welcome my clients and my friends to send their photos through. You'll get credit for it on the website. We'll put a little caption. You can tell me where it was taken and why you sent it. And you can send that through on email or via WeTransfer if it's a very big file.
All right, and then obviously the company name is just Barking Wilds, and I think that's
it.
That's it. So this has been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me in your home. Now we're going to go and drink a couple of beers, I think.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Follow the Business of Podcast on my website, megamillist.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to the YouTube channel @megamillist. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Megan Darcy, MEGAND'Arcy. Chat soon.